Hello, all. Sique here, and welcome back to Her Ongoing Candor, where your favorite blue-collar Jen talks about her spiritual work and doesn't care who listens or who believes her. Today, we're going to do episode 4, which is the Harbinger of Truth, and we're going to start off with a couple of definitions. First of all, Harbinger. It's a noun. It's something or someone that signals or foreshadows what is to come, especially something significant or transformative. Yep. Usually you hear about Harbinger of Doom, but while a lot of people see me that way, I am actually the Harbinger of Truth, which is also a noun, someone who signals or foreshadows the lifting of illusions and lies in a situation or environment, leaving those protected by them exposed. To folks who feel exposed, it still feels like doom, but I get it. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because not a lot of people know what I do or what this part looks like, even though, by and large, it's the biggest part of my job. I do this more than anything else. And a lot of times I don't, a lot of times I bring the answers. Very few times I'm actually asked anything. And I wish people would ask me more, which is why I made this episode to answer a question that I wish I had answered earlier, but I'm getting ahead of myself. As you know, I have walked away from the PCA, and I've been spending major liturgical holidays at a small church called Jubilee. I'm going to, still working on trying to pronounce that word. But I spent Ash Wednesday with the team at Jubilee Episcopal Church, and after the service, while I was outside vaping and taking in the cool air, one of the church mothers came up to me and asked me what I believe is the most courageous question I've been asked in probably last year and a half. After a little bit of conversation, she just came out with it and was like, talking about Jubilee, are we going to survive this? Is our church going to survive? And it's a fair question. And like I said, it's a courageous question. And the first thing I did was thank her for asking it, because I really appreciate it when folks kind of take the initiative and ask the hard questions. And it's a fair question because she's not stupid. If she is any kind of leadership, once again, she's a church mother, then she has talked to folks in other churches and heard that churches have ended, downsized, and church leaders have left behind my spiritual work. And due to slander that's associated with my name, there's no real way to indicate what my appearance on your doorstep actually means, right? And the best way to find out, as I've said many times, is to ask. So she did, and I gave her my best answer. And that answer was I didn't know, because I didn't. I was just coming out of a lesson, and I was trying to digest it, rest from it, and then kind of digest it and figure out what the next steps were. But I didn't want to leave her without an answer at all. So I told her what I know, which is, first of all, I haven't been given, and I wasn't ready for any kind of foresight into that. Number one. Number two, Jubilee was given to me as a gift, so I don't imagine that anything would happen, which is true. And I did mention that the churches I'm associated with tend to last, and all of them have lasted over a decade. But I should have been a bit stronger in that, and a bit clearer. But once again, I was concentrating on vaping and trying to wrap my head around a very big question very quickly. And so I just said that they had lasted a long time. What I should have been clearer about is that they have gone through some serious and distinct changes because I was there. They have lost leadership that would have harmed them in the long run had those leaders continued. They have realized that their longevity is based far more on the infrastructure that was established early on rather than their quality of people. And in one case, one church, a lot of folks went there so they could be big fishes in a smaller pond. But then it became very clear that they had to take accountability for things and they didn't want that. So they went somewhere else, right? And because of those changes, people left and the church itself was allowed to thrive long after I left them, right? But now that I've had more time to think about it, I want to give a better answer. The main answer is that I still don't know. I still don't know. But I want to talk about why I don't know. And it's by design. As a harbinger of truth, I don't walk into a place leveling judgment, flipping tables, kicking shins, and pointing at folks. I don't do that. I start with this cantrip. Whatever can be destroyed by the truth should be. Whatever can be destroyed by this truth can be. And whatever can be destroyed by the truth will be. Then I shut up and listen. I observe. And as time goes on, I receive words from the Lord. I receive thoughts and actual steps that kind of fill in the picture in me like a mystery color by number, right? I sit with it, focusing on the Lord and waiting for instructions. And when the instructions come, they're rarely big like the things you've seen from me in the last few years. That's a new development. And I find it unnerving, but evidently it's going to be part of my life from now on, so we're going to continue on. Up until that point, 99% of the time, it was tiny moves, some encouragement here. All the sevens are white, right? Or being present at the right time there. That's because all the fours are purple. Or story or time spent in aid. All the ones around these margins, this is all gray, right? It informs how I relay the overall message and what I can expect the Lord to do in this situation or this circumstance. How He intends on sending truth. Because it is a knife after all, and it will harm. And that was the second thing I told the church mother. There isn't anything that destroys them that hasn't been warned about. If something breaks or if something gets destroyed, they will have plenty of time to know what it is and plenty of time to correct it, because that's literally my job, right? But what I didn't know was how Jubilee fitted into all of this. And it's kind of funny now, considering what I'm about to say, how the Lord intends to do this later this year is by declaring Jubilee over the nations and all the religions. And yes, the church name was a clue, and Shield to Joyous was a clue. And no, I did not get it immediately. I went to Ash Wednesday looking at that sign, kind of hyperfixated and wondering why the Lord wants my attention on this name. And it never connected the dots because pure of heart and dumb as ass was in full effect. But I'm glad of that, because I feel the safest when I feel the Lord is 10 steps ahead. I never want to lean on my own understanding because it's never worth it. Also, another reason why it didn't come to mind is because as a Jehovah's Witness, which is I was raised in, we never celebrated Jubilee. That was part of the Old Testament. That was part of the Mosaic Law, which ended with Christ's death. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, we believe that it was there to show that that part of the Bible was here to show that the Lord tried to teach us that we couldn't do it on our own, and we needed Him, and we needed the ransom sacrifice. So I never really dug into that, right? And as far as I know, it isn't currently celebrated as described in the Bible, because of greed and legal issues, I assume. And those two themselves would make the whole forgiving of debts or returning lands kind of unwieldy, right? So I don't have a complete picture of what this will look like, but I do have some information, right? What I know is the Lord will be declaring the debts to Him from man fulfilled, and all punishments and curses from now, all going all the way back to the fall of man, have been satisfied. Are we perfect? No, we are not, but we are the closest we have ever been. And the Lord is removing the infrastructure that has been built to keep these curses enforced. White supremacy, patriarchy, cruelty without consequence, or cruelty with lower consequence, all of that is lifted. Not only that, but during this time, He will be actively pushing back on those who want to enforce or demand a debt. Anyone who wants to keep using oppression as their method. Anyone who wants to keep using punishment as a way of interacting and engaging with reality in the world, instead of using kindness, empathy, joy, truth, and anti-greed. Personally, I feel this, as many African Americans do, as feeling compelled to sit, wait, and rest, right? No longer having to offer labor to those who do not want our opinions or our leadership. It's something that I felt for about a year and a half, and as I started to talk to people, a lot of people have felt that as well. Just the need to sit down, and also they don't feel compelled to move like they once did. It's a feeling of being done and wanting to rest. And as I've been talking to folks, a lot of people in a lot of different cultures also are getting that feeling in ways that are significant to them in their culture. It is going to the very root of essentialism, that even though it looks different in different cultures, the feeling is the same. It's essentially the same. And so it seems that this is starting slowly, like turning the valve to venting on an Instapot, right? You just don't open the Instapot unless you want your pot roast or your pulled pork all over your kitchen, right? And on the ceiling, which is hard to get off. No, what you do is you vent it and let the steam remove, right? And it usually takes some time. Once all the steam is released, then you take off the pot. From as far as I can understand, this has been happening since July. If I had to put a date on it, July 21st, 2024. That's when I felt it. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people also didn't feel it in a way that's significant to them in their culture around the same time. I'm looking at my notes here, and I did mention that over this year, it starts on September 20th, by the way. I haven't been given any indication that the onset of it is any different than it's always been, so we're going to align it with Yom Kippur in the evening of the 20th of September and going on to that year. This will apply to other religions as well. Many cultures will have a celebration or observance where debts are paid and life resets. The land resets. You go and reconfirm what you believe. There's a lot of religions that have a celebration, a lot of cultures that have a celebration like that. And it appears that this year, Jubilee is meant to hit every last one of them as it rolls through the calendar, which is great and all. But then I asked the Lord, well, what do you want me specifically to do? Because when these things are done, it's twofold. It is going out into the world, and also how you engage with yourself, going inward to yourself. And when I asked the Lord, well, what am I expected to do during all of this? The Lord takes me back to what I wish I had before. And it's literally that. It sounds weird, but go back to what you wish you had before. So I spent a lot of time in prayer and contemplation and on the beach in San Francisco. And I wished for, it was, as a child, I wish that the 8, 9, 10-year-old me, that she could create her world while abandon and joy. She never had that opportunity because it was destroyed. The church mothers there would told her that I shouldn't be doing this, even though she herself was a big Star Trek fan, big Lord of the Rings fan, loved that. It just seemed different to create it, and so that was discouraged. And I wish I had been able to create like that. And then I think about the teen that wish they were able to have solo TTRPGs, hell, to be able to play them out in the open, but also have the solo TTRPGs when she just wanted to be alone, with stories and worlds that were Christian friendly or Christian approved, or wasn't bothered by Christians. And then the woman who wished she had kept up her drawing and illustration the way she did it as a teen. I was drawing all the time. I read, listened to music, and I drew. That's how I spent a good part of my time. And I wish I had kept up with it. And then there's the author that wants to create a world that people want to spend time in without necessarily writing a book. I love world building. Don't particularly care for writing books. I mean, they're fine, but they don't give me the kind of enjoyment that I'm experiencing now. Another thing the Lord did was sent my mind back to shaman states and why I created that in the first place. And I created it to think through my spiritual work. It's difficult in spiritual work. You don't see the world the way most people do, which is why I set it up to being 2% of the population. There are some, but there are not many. And what do you do when your perspective, your worldview, the lens that you look through the world is so incredibly rare? And I found that creating a world where pockets of it, there's a culture built around it. What would that look like? And that's what I did with Shaman States. I created it to have a safe mental space. And I invited other writers to write in it to see if they were experiencing that safety too. And they did. And they did in a way that was much easier than digesting the Al-Azhar stuff, which is basically my experience in the ether, but that's a totally different story. I had found a place where we could all convene, and that was so good. And I'm really glad that I have the opportunity that I built it, because now I have the opportunity to do my favorite part. I hate first drafts. I love revisions. And now that I've laid out the base with Shaman States and 27 novels and 11 short stories and now 2 games, I get to reboot it and refine it. Okay? So, what are my next steps? Well, I'm Going to be leaning into diegetic world building, not unlike future designers, and becoming a bit of a futurist. Diegetic world building is that you're going to experience the world as a hunter would, right? And I am your introduction to it. And I'm going to talk to you as if the Jubilee is happening, because it is. I fully believe it does. Whether you do or not, I'm going to create as if it does. And I think it's going to be interesting, because Jubilee is a reset and a reboot by its very nature. And it aligns with the 50-year Shaman States reboot, right? I've been talking about this for a while, but I've only recently made that connection, right? And also, Jubilee is the 50th year, so it's supposed to happen every 50 years, which is also kind of crazy, because I've been talking about this for a while, like I said, and yeah, I didn't make that connection. It also answers a question that I've been getting over the years, which is why hunters adhere to their culture. And I usually get this question when one of the authors want to do something that you would stereotypically see in like an urban fantasy, and I shoot it down, and it's like, no, we're doing it this way. And I've been pushing that aside for a while. The reason why everybody listened to the Spencer Doctrine in the Shaman States, why folks react the way that they do, why they don't just jump out and just save folks or kill monsters on sight. A lot of reasons, right? And I kind of knew the answer, but I was trying to push it out of my mind for a while. But then the answer became obvious. That Shaman States is a Christian nation. And Caramel Sugar Evil, the company I work for, and I'm the director of research and development for, is an outfitter of the faithful. That is, we are a Christian monster hunter outfitter. Not unlike Lifeway or that store where Mormons buy the special draws at. Like, I'm one of them, right? And the religion we worship is a denomination of essentialism. It's Christian essentialism. And we recognize that there are practicing and cultural essentialists. They each have a valuable part in our lives and culture, right? Essentialism itself is deity agnostic, meaning that these values transcend religion, and those that believe in other gods but adhere to essentialism are kin to us. And as those who do not, I was trying to read my notes here, they're kin to us. Those who believe in other gods but still adhere to essentialism are our kin. As those who do not believe in a deity at all but adhere to essentialism, right? That means there's a space for agnostics and atheists, because essentialism is a way to engage and interpret reality, having full knowledge of the existence of the supernatural, right? We are monster hunters, after all, and we can see them and have to fight them. The gods, supernatural creatures, and monsters are real. So our coda must adjust to that. And yes, can you be an atheist and still live in a monster hunter world? Yes, you can believe in the non-existence of certain deities, and I'll get into that when I talk about mascots. So, when it comes to Jubilee, in addition to clearing debts and absolving oppressive laws that affect hunters and creatures, essentialists must also take this year to redefine and reconfirm what and how they believe and build a life around that, with joy in Jehovah as our center. By the way, we call God Jehovah. And as the director of research and development for Caramel Sugar Evil, And on a personal note, as an essentialist Christian, I'm reaffirming my faith by creating The Path to Unpunishable, a study series that helps you fight punishment culture. Because once again, the plague has caused a 13% increase of sighted people who are coming in from punishment culture. And they either find safety in essentialism or see it as something that they can take advantage of, and they find very quickly that will kill them. All right. So to kind of prevent that and kind of set a line in the sand early, I developed The Path to Unpunishable. I'm also developing what's called the Four Realms deck, a game that introduces and reaffirms how different regions of the shaman states engage and react to the reality, either culturally or as practicing essentialists. The Four Realms is also the new basis of our magic system, and I put that in quotes because I wanted a simpler way of explaining how powers work, how specters work, how slimes work in shaman states, and how the well system works as well. We'll also be revamping the currency and hunter rank systems. Right? And then the final one is my Spoons or Stabby. The flagship Sugar Weevil game will be revised to reflect the Four Realms and will enter its second edition. And so those are the 3 projects that I'm working on this year. And the goal is to get the Caramel Sugar Evil site up by September. And along with Path to Unpunishable, the deck, the Essentialism deck, the illustrated deck, the workbook, and the art book, those 4 items will be there. The Four Realms deck and the newly revised My Spoons or Stabby. If we can fit it in, there will be Card Clash and there will be Badges Under Class. But my focus in 6 months between the solstice, which is my birthday, March 20th, where I'm recording these, and September 20th, which is a neat 6 months, my focus will be on these 3 projects and building the Caramel Sugar Evil site. So it's a lot. And as you can see, it's kind of messy. But this is what I do as the Harbinger of Truth. I take all this information, and as improvements need to be made, I improve. And as I have more information, I'll provide it. And in the meantime, I'm working on myself first, because all of these items are things that I use to study. These are the ways I learn the best, and I want to learn the best. And so I've designed to sell hunters, if they need that encouragement, if they need that encouragement or they need the confirmation, weekly personal study is also part of those who practice essentialism. And so we're going to give them tools in order to do that. And I hope as you learn about essentialism and you learn about the projects I'm making, that while it's not something you want to just jump into, maybe this or that will be helpful to you. I hope so. And as we go on, I'm hoping to refine it as well. I hope that answers your question. Talk to you soon.